And Barcelona Athletic Bilbao at 6, all on Sky Sports 1.
This is Sky Sports.
Durban in South Africa is the venue for round 8 of the A1GP calendar. The street circuit with its tight and twisting corners will prove to be challenging for the drivers and is expected to provide the sellout audience with another stunning show.
Attacking front for the lead, final lap, can he get around? Oh no, they hit, Ridden just gets through on the inside, Robbie Kerr is going to finish in second right behind the French car.
Team Germany's double win in New Zealand puts them almost out of reach in the points table, with driver Nico Hülkenberg taking his tally to an impressive 6 victories this season.
Nico Hülkenberg wins for Team Germany. Now he can punch the air, now he can enjoy the moment.
After recent reports in the press of Hülkenberg leaving the series after Durban proved unfounded, his rivals should expect no let-up from the young German. So this weekend in South Africa's own Monaco, Hülkenberg will set out to record a third double race win to secure his championship lead. Will the incredible Hulk put on an incredible performance? A1GP is back in Durban for its second street race of the season. Today it's qualifying. Last year's inaugural Durban street race was a sellout success and voted the best round of the 2005-06 season. Team Netherlands' Jos Verstappen was the race day hero, crashing out of the sprint and winning the feature with an awe-inspiring overtaking manoeuvre on the very final lap. Commitment and courage, all important on this racetrack, as is a good qualifying performance. With me in the studio to watch it all unfold, the dynamic duo of World Touring Car champion Andy Priaulx and top IndyCar driver Darren Manning. First time these two have been paired together in this studio, so things could be pretty interesting. A big risk on our part. Andy, we'll come to you first of all. There's some spectacular driving from Jos Verstappen last year, which stole the headlines. Expect more of the same this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jos's drive last year got us all going here in the studio. He was awesome. To come from last on the grid and to win that race was amazing. But there's some young chargers up there at the front, and my worry with the street circuit is you can't always see what's on the exit of the corner, and a few young guys up front could make a mistake, and it could be carnage.
Darren, Nico Hülkenberg, the success story of this year. Does this street circuit suit his style?
I think it suits every track's going to suit his style. He seems to be dominant wherever he goes, whether it's a street circuit or Zandvoort or wherever they've gone. They've been fast all the time, so they seem to have the setup wherever it goes. And he's proven in testing already. He's been fastest I think in every session so far. So expect another dominating performance from that German squad.
Let's look at a few in particular. Alvaro Parente and Team Portugal, Andy, back in the mix. He finished third in the feature here last year. What sort of a performance do you expect back from this team this weekend?
Well, it's good to see him back actually, because he was very competitive last year. He's a Formula 3 champion, so he's very, very quick, and obviously finished third here last year. But he hasn't driven for a while. He's not going to be familiar with the car. It's a new team, so don't expect too much. You can see he's driving a massive commitment there last year. Wouldn't rule him out. I mean, he's very quick in practice. He's third, so he's got a good chance to do the job.
So Alvaro Parente back in the A1 mix, and a new kid on the block as well, Darren, with a lot of experience as well. Bruno Junqueira for Team USA. What does he bring to the party?
Yeah, you can see him here, unfortunately, making a bit of a mistake, but I think that was more to do with the breaking up of that curbing there. You can see here some of the tarmac getting moved from the curb and just clipping it and throwing him over the second part of the chicane. There's nothing he could have really done there, but he's very experienced. I've raced against him in Champ Car and Formula 3000 and such like, so he's very experienced in these kind of cars. It shouldn't be too much of a problem, and that struggling Brazil team needs a little bit of a boost, and I think Bruno's probably the man to bring the team up as well as their performance.
Let's also talk about Team France's Loic Duval, because he's looked promising all season as a rookie, and Andy finished third in the sprint in Australia. He's been pretty quick here. How big a threat's he?
Yeah, he's really fast. I mean, it's interesting to see that France aren't the team at the moment that's setting the pace. Hülkenberg does have the edge, but he's a quick guy. He's won in Nippon, in Japan. He knows the car very well, as Darren said. You know, he's driven this car before, so you can never rule him out. And I noticed with the French guys, they're always quick around street circuits, always win. He nearly won Macau. He made a mistake in Macau. He's very, very fast. Don't rule him out.
Darren, just pinpoint it for us. What are the different demands that a street circuit puts on a driver from a traditional race circuit?
Well, I think the first thing is, and the main thing is, as you've seen there with Bruno, there's no margin for error here. There's no run-off. You make a mistake by 1 foot and you're in the wall, and you've taken a corner or a side off the car. So, and as Andy said earlier, you know, you can't see what's coming around that corner. So you've always got to have a margin of error. You know, just you can't really drive at 110% that you can do on road courses.
Looking forward to the action that's going to ensue in just a short moment's time. After 7 rounds then, this is how the championship looks. Germany, the current series leaders, 25 points ahead of Team New Zealand, just 5 points separating New Zealand and France currently. GBR still in the mix, but 15 points off France. They're going to be pretty desperate to get points on the table in Durban and distance themselves from the rest of the chasing pack. So not long to go until qualifying gets underway. Let's get the latest from the Durban Street Circuit with Lee Mackenzie.
Thanks very much, Georgia. Yeah, hello and welcome to a scorching South Africa. I think I probably say this every week, but this is by far the hottest qualifying day that we've had. Indonesia was very hot. Yesterday here it was 35 degrees and today it's set to exceed even that. But one man who's keeping quite cool in the cockpit is Great Britain's Robbie Kerr. Robbie, what's the circuit like out there?
No, it's good. It's a similar circuit to last year. They've changed a couple of little curbs, but it's no real difference, and it's just really getting used to the car again over the bumps.
And you struggled a wee bit in the last few races. Luck hasn't gone your way. Do you think you've found anything that can help you this weekend?
I don't think we struggled with pace in the last races. We just had purely bad luck with the battery exploding in New Zealand and the tyre in the first race in Australia. And so hopefully this weekend we'll have a little bit better luck. But so far we've had a couple of issues, so hopefully we sort those out for qualifying.
Robbie, thanks very much. Well, one man who's not had much luck, it's fair to say, is Ireland's Richard Lyons. Richard, a nudge there, well, pretty heavy nudge onto the wall just in the last few minutes of that session. Is the car going to be ready in time for qualifying?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's only cosmetic. You know, the damage is nothing too bad, and it wasn't really a big knock anyway. But it was unfortunate that it happened. But you know, they've got to push the limit sometime, and you know, it's best to find out now.
The team are working pretty hard. What's this circuit like? Is it somewhere you like to drive?
Yeah, it's fantastic actually. It's the first time in the street circuit for me. I'm really enjoying my time here. You know, it's a new challenge, and you know, we all like new challenges. So I've got to make the most of it, and we are at the moment. I'm finding every last square inch at the moment.
Richard, thanks very much for joining us. Well, it'll be interesting to see if Team Ireland can get that car out in time. Richard's pretty confident. They're working very, very hard. It's bound to be yet another exciting qualifying.
Lee, thank you. We have mentioned how important it is to get a good qualifying time around this circuit. Expect times to be pretty quick today around what is the fastest street circuit on the A1GP calendar. We'll let a past master John Watson demonstrate, introduced by Lee Mackenzie.
The street circuit of Durban is one of the toughest on the A1GP calendar. There are plenty of typical street traps ready to catch the drivers out. Drain covers, solid curbs and uncompromising walls, to name but a few. The circuit is surrounded by an amphitheatre of temporary stands and beachfront apartment blocks, which reverberate the sound of the A1GP engines.
13 turns over the 2-mile KwaZulu-Natal Durban street track. See us running down into turn 1. Watch for the bumps in the middle of the circuit. Get well over to the left for turn 1. And all the surface changes you expect on a street track. Good traction out of turn 1, and then a short squirt up to turn 2. Some will try and pass here, others will end up in the barrier on the outside of the circuit. It's a quick ding to the right, and then you're into the first of the 2 chicanes here in Durban. The middle is very bumpy indeed. This is the second chicane, a little bit quicker, which leads you up to turn 8. In effect, it's the off-ramp for the motorway that you now join, going the wrong way of course. Top speed about 255 kilometers per hour, and then you brake down into turn 9. Great overtaking opportunities here, and immediately into turn 10. From here to the finish, the track is noticeably narrower, but it is also very quick indeed. The long, never-ending turn 12 picks up speed all the way around and grip as more rubber goes down on the racetrack. Turn 13, the final turn, is bumpy in the entry, bumpy in the middle, and surprise, surprise, bumpy on the exit, and that's a lap of Durban.
Team Malaysia Chief Executive, incidentally, says this track has two outcomes, victor or victim. So we'll see how the A1 drivers get on with it a little later on. Let's get the thoughts of both guys back in the studio to what we've just seen there. Andy, you're a past master of driving street circuits, I should say. Will drivers who have experience of them flourish here?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, Georgie, the French are really quick on street circuits. You need to have a good car, you need to have a lot of confidence, and you also need to have this sort of awareness of where the barrier is while you're still looking forward. And some guys struggle with that. They have a proximity problem and they take a wheel off. It's as simple as that. You're either good on street circuits or you're not. Darren's won in Macau. I've always been quick on street circuits, and I think you either like it or you don't.
Not many overtaking opportunities, Darren, on this particular track. So where are teams going to make up the difference?
Well, I think just especially those curbs in those fast chicanes. We've seen people going off there all weekend when the car's not really handling, and these cars are pretty set up. They're generally set up very stiff, and on a street circuit, that's not very good for wheel movement and going in over those curbs. And it's a street. It's got a lot of camber, and you heard John talking about there on his track description. You've got to stay to one side. You can't go in the middle of the track, so it's going to be difficult to overtake. But there's a couple of tight hairpins that you could maybe get up inside.
Okay, thanks guys for the moment. A lot of concentration required around this circuit. It is pretty unforgiving. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, live qualifying from Durban. Welcome back to Durban, South Africa. 800 or so metres from the city centre, just 300 metres from the North Beach coastline. Fantastic backdrop. Let's take you trackside. Our reporters Lee McKenzie and Simon Hill, John Watson and Ben Edwards, your commentators.
The scene at Durban as we await the green light at the end of the pit lane to commence qualifying here, the first of the 4 sessions that will determine grid positions for the sprint race. And really, we feel a little bit in the dark, except to say that France and Germany have been looking strong all weekend. Apart from that, it could be anybody else up there. But the first to go out, it is Team Pakistan, and it's Nur Ali. Let me just very quickly run through who's driving for which nation here today. We've got Carl Reindler for Australia, Bruno Junqueira driving for Brazil for the first time, James Hinchcliffe for Canada, Ho Pin Tung for China, Thomas Enger back for the Czech Republic, Loic Duval for France, Nico Hulkenberg for Germany, Robbie Kerr's out for Great Britain, Narain Karthikeyan for India, Ananda Mikula going well for Indonesia in practice, Richard Lyons for Ireland. He did have a little problem at the end of practice, crashing into the wall, Tocacello for Italy, Alam Kodair for Lebanon, Alex Young for Malaysia, then Salvador Duran for Mexico, Bleeker Molen for the Netherlands, Matt Halliday for New Zealand, Nur Ali, as we've seen, for Pakistan, then Parent for Portugal, Murchison for Singapore, Adrian Zhao for South Africa, Neil Yarni for Switzerland, and Jonathan Somerton for USA. Air temperature 30 degrees, humidity's high, 74%, and you've got a pretty high track temperature to deal with as well.
Well, street tracks are always high work rate circuits. It's all about acceleration and low gears, braking, low speed corners. There's not a big physical load on the driver, but the load that the driver will experience most is the fact that you're driving on the normal roads of a city, which are not always that billiard table smooth surface that you expect to get if you're a racing driver on a permanent circuit. But it's about finding the rhythm of a circuit. Street tracks have got their own particular rhythm. If you find it, they're fantastic. The reward is just unbelievable. If you can't find it, or you're not even in the zone, it will be one of your worst nightmares.
So first flying lap coming up here, and it is for Nur Ali for Pakistan. He had one minor spin on the Friday, a couple of minor spins on the Friday I think it was, but otherwise he's been pretty much out of trouble.
Yes, and again Pakistan getting bit by bit closer to the times that you'd expect the rest of the field, but just watching him through turn 1 he missed the apex, through turn 2 he missed the apex, and that's all about experience and expertise. It'll take time to generate it, but for Nur Ali he's got to go out, do the job. He's first car on track, he's got a clear track. This is the notorious turn 7 that's caught out so many drivers, both either by driving over the chicane or by making an error, as we saw this morning for Team Brazil.
Out of turn 8, and this is onto the very fastest section of the circuit, where they're building up to 255, 260 kilometers an hour. That's about 160 miles an hour. Look, the traffic in the opposite direction on the outside as he comes through that vital right-hander, and then beneath the M4 road here in Durban. That's the bridge that he's just gone under, and now he's on the run back effectively towards the pit area.
Yes, and this is where the racetrack picks up a lot of speed. You go into turn 12, it's a long, I mean, it just goes on and on and on, picking up speed all the way through. The grip picks up as well, and then you come out of turn 12, you've got a short run down into 13. It's bumpy in the entrance, mid-corner and on the exit, but that is your lap complete. It's over in a blink, and for Noor Ali, it's a 1:25.732, and that's what 1.7 seconds slower than he achieved this morning when he finished that third official practice session.
Temperatures may be slightly warmer, but we are expecting to see lap times certainly in the 1:18s and probably in the 1:17s, judging by the pace we saw this morning. Although, to be fair, that was after they had done several laps on a set of tyres, and maybe on a street track it was an advantage to put several laps together. Here, they only get the out lap to get some tyre temperature and some grip, and then they're on the one flying lap and then back into the pits.
Yeah, and the question mark is, on the out lap, do you take it easy, do you go a little bit harder, or do you push? Because the question is, on a street track you tend not to generate the sort of tyre temperature, the surface temperature of the tyre that you do require to get the tyre to operate in its zone. So if you go slowly on your out lap, although you will have preheated your tyres, they may well lose 10 to 15 degrees temperature, and then you push on your first flying lap, you may not have the grip there that you expected.
Here's the hero, if you like, of the last race in Australia, Ho Pin Tung, who brought China their first ever podium. It was a brilliant drive, great strategy, and he really drove it hard too. Robbie Kerr, meanwhile, knows this Durban circuit from the last time he visited, and he was on the front row here alongside France. On that occasion it was driven by Alexander Premat. So Kerr should go well, but they had a few little problems with the car this morning they're hoping to have sorted out for this afternoon.
Well, he came into the circuit this morning in the balls of his feet, happy as Larry, and thinking that everything was going to be as he would like. And then, of course, during the process of the running this morning, it didn't quite work out as he had anticipated, so he's on maybe a little bit more on the back, maybe on his heel rather than the ball of his foot.
So USA onto their flying lap. I'm intrigued to see that France have gone out this early in the session. We are expecting France to be one of the favourites for pole position. They've gone out early in this first session. USA close to the wall on the exit of the hairpin there. I think he got away with it. Now he's up to turn 2. Watch the car over the curbs and over the bumps.
Yeah, so just on the exit of 2, you've got to be careful when you run out to the very edge of the racetrack. You don't catch the wall as it comes back in against you. Here through turn 5, easy to bounce into the wall on the outside. It's very bumpy in the middle of turn 5. Now up to the notorious 7. Jonathan Somerton, wisely on his first run, stays well off those curbs. He may not be the quickest line through that corner, but for sure on your first run, get the time, get a solid time, and then you've got 3 more opportunities.
Let's just remind you that Jonathan Somerton for Team USA is having his first outing as their race driver. He's driven in the rookie practice sessions already, and he was fastest in the rookie practice session in Australia. That's earned him this opportunity. He's only 18 years old. He's raced in the European Formula 3 in the past, and now he's got his big chance driving for Team USA.
Well, he was 3.4 seconds up on that second split, and I suspect you can add another second to that by the time he comes across the start-finish line. So we were anticipating a lap time somewhere maybe in the middle 1 minute 20s, maybe a low 1 minute 21.
It's a 1:19.9, so even
picked
better.
Up 5.7 seconds on the course of that lap.
So a lot faster than the first flying lap that we saw. He kept it off the wall out of the hairpin, so controlled that well. But I can tell you that France is already on a lap that's looking to be even quicker than that. He's already half a second up.
Yes, the split time is indicating that in that first sector, that Loic Duval for France really is in a different class to the field that we've seen out so far. But of course, you've got to get through these 4 sectors. It's absolutely crucial for somebody at this end of the pits, France, who have been, other than Germany, the dominant nation here this weekend, not to overdrive, not to be overconfident. Going through that very little quick right-left flick before you come into this long left-hand corner that leads into the final turn. Easy to get it wrong.
So France have not had a pole position for a little while. They've had none so far this year, but this is going to be a good first run for Loic Duval. Look at that, a 1:18.620, and they'll be well pleased, I think, with that first showing from Loic Duval.
Yes, that's a solid time for France, just a 1/10 of a second away from the time that Duval established this morning at 1 minute 18.5.
On board now with the Czech Republic car, Thomas Enger at the wheel.
That's the corner. He slapped the wall this morning, but he got through cleanly now.
Now he's through the long left-hander, the casino corner, the Suncoast Casino just on his left-hand side, now up to the final right-hander. This was where he had a spin this morning, and somehow he kept it off the wall, and does so this time with a nice smooth trajectory. 1 minute 20.9, not really quite as quick as we might have expected.
No, and a 1.4 seconds away again from the time he did this morning. Let's look again. Of course, there's maybe part of the reason.
Yeah.
Traffic coming into turn 9. So for Thomas Enger, meeting a car on its, well, that was the USA probably coming in. So Thomas Enger can rightly claim, though, look at the leisure mirrors, mate. No, you saw me coming. If you didn't see me coming, then you've no excuse for not seeing me coming.
Yeah.
Bodywork on the track. Somebody at turn 7 has gone off.
We've seen this before, John, haven't we? Several times this weekend.
And the side, there's the end plates and part. And it's India. Narain Karthikeyan, and he's damaged the car as well. Smoke pouring off the rear. That's tyre damage, I think. Watch what happens into turn 7. Is this a repeat of what we saw from Brazil? Well, oh dear me. He damaged the suspension, the front suspension, and he has hit that car. An almighty wallop in the chicane, entering into turn 7, and it bounces and bucks and writhes and whatever.
Very similar to the accident we saw to Mexico this morning.
I'm breathless after that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. He basically he clipped the curb slightly wrong. It's fascinating to watch. If you get the line right when you clip the curb there, you seem to float over it. But he clipped it just wrong, and it folded the front wing under the front wheel and took the suspension with it.
I mean, we've seen incidents down at turn 7. Even last year there was an area where drivers got it wrong. Richard Lyons back out for Team Ireland. He had a big shunt this morning, but he's got the car back. He did lock up coming into turn 9, but he recovered from it. But he has got a little flat spot on that right front tyre.
Yeah, and the sector time not showing a particularly quick time, but remember, France have a big advantage at the moment over everyone else. The gap first to second is currently 1.3 seconds. Behind that, it's pretty close.
And traffic again. I mean, what is going on? It's traffic. People are not using their mirrors. They're not conscious enough. Richard Lyons frustrated. You can see what he did. He pulled across the front. I think that was Indonesia. And he goes 9th of the 122.067.
Yeah, it is going to be tight out there in terms of trying to get a clear lap. Everybody's going to struggle. And I don't think Lyons was too happy there. They've gone 9th quickest. He's only faster than Pakistan after that first run. So he had a pretty poor first run. May well have had the old tyres on the car as they checked out everything was working.
I think in reality his time, had it not been impeded by that other car, would have maybe seen him only go to 8th, because 7th place, the Czech Republic, are best part of 1.1 seconds, and I don't think he lost 1.1 seconds. Now, Germany and traffic.
Germany catching traffic in a pretty poor place here. He's got Portugal right ahead of him. Alvaro Perez driving for Portugal, returning to the series, and now gets out of the way. That was pretty good, actually. Did a good job of trying to keep out of Hulkenberg's way. Hulkenberg on a flying lap, trying to challenge the pace that has been set by Team France.
And always in a qualifying session, under 5 minutes remaining. But look, he's 3/10, almost 4/10 of a second up on the time France set. 1 minute 18.6 for France. This could see the first, if he can get away with it, sub 1 minute 18 second lap. Big ask, but he can maybe do it.
Let's see if he holds on to it then. He's up through the final corner. 1:18.6 is the target time to beat. Is Nico Hulkenberg going to beat it? Yes, 1:18.2. That's the fastest time we've seen in this qualifying session. He was a little faster than that this morning in practice itself.
But bear in mind, that time was done with a lot of traffic. He got good cooperation from Portugal, but nevertheless, when you're on a qualifying run, seeing one car on a lap is a problem.
Amanda Mikkola has gone second, John. Indonesia second quickest, faster than France. What an outstanding effort by Ananda Mikkola.
And there's a reason, a very good reason for this, because all year Ananda Mikkola struggled with a car setup. He's been totally dissatisfied, frustrated. They went back to the original setup that he ran pretty much all last year, and it worked for him. Now here's the incident we saw with Richard Lyons on a flying lap on the car on the right. He pulls across the front of Ananda Mikkola to show his frustration. There, Mark Kershaw, Gary Anderson on the Team Ireland pit lane. They're looking at it and thinking, I know, come on guys, give us a break.
Oh, it's tight. Look at Portugal locking up, trying to get past New Zealand. And
oh, did he ever skim that wall or not? Alvaro Perez back in an A1GP car for the first time in this series, and doing a sterling job and running right out to the very edge.
Yeah, getting caught in traffic though, that won't help him, and his split time about 9/10 of a second down. He could still get into the top 6 here if he carries on where he is. Mexico's popped up to 4th. It's currently Germany, Indonesia, France, Mexico, USA and Singapore. Let's see where this puts Portugal.
I tell you, did he ever shave the wall? He goes up to 5th place, but he was right against the wall, the pit lane, and he really flirted with the wall all the way around. Here he is coming down the inside. Matt Halliday from New Zealand trying to get out of the way. He's on an outlap. Alvaro Perez then slides, misses the wall on the exit of turn 9, gets away with that one, and then as he comes onto the pit straight, manages just to get away with it a second time.
Host nation South Africa now on a flying lap themselves. Look at that, wonderful, right out to the wall, but just keeping it off.
Well, I mean, how close can you get? We thought Parent was close to the wall, but Adrian Zaug takes it to new limits again on the exit of turn 12, right out to the very limits. Adrian Zaug commits himself big time as he turns into turn 13.
This should put him in the top 4 or 5. Let's see where it puts him. Yeah, he's 4th. So good first run there by Adrian Zaug. But let me tell you that Switzerland's on a good lap. They're going to be challenging for fastest time with Germany. Neil Jani's looking fast currently. Let's just take another look at this. Great driving from Zaug.
Sliding the car under brakes coming into turn 9. Then he gets on the throttle, he runs actually over around the corner, and that again maybe the best part of 0.2 of a second. So we go back to Neil Jani and Team Switzerland.
Let's see what he's just done. He's gone second, John. He was a fraction slower, 37 slower, 37 thousandths of a second, I should say, slower. And here's New Zealand. Matt Halliday at the wheel this weekend, not Johnny Reid. And Johnny Reid's been the most impressive qualifier this year. Look at Halliday.
And kicked up part of the Irish bodywork that was still on the track.
But he goes 6th quickest, so not as high up as New Zealand have become accustomed to in the last couple of events. New Zealand 6th on their first run. It puts them just behind South Africa. Chris Gorn, race engineer there, they've got a little bit more work to do to try and move up further in the order. But South Africa, I think that's a good effort from Adrian Zaug.
Well, we're looking down, and it's my car. This is Brazil. They've commandeered the spare car. They've put their own setup on this car. So watch for Bruno Junqueira in a car that is used exclusively by me on Friday morning to do the track specs.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be hustled by Bruno Junqueira in this qualifying. And remember, this is the first time Junqueira has qualified an A1GP car. Very experienced from Champ Car racing and from Formula 1 testing and from Formula 3000 champion some years ago. Let's see what he can do. He's just got to get a lap in the bank basically here without damaging the car, and then hopefully he'll build up through the remaining segments.
Well, everything looks very good indeed. This car worked extremely well on Friday morning. Of course, it's at a different level of performance to that we saw. But Bruno Junqueira, strange car, first flying lap, and it looks a very solid lap. 1 minute 20.1 puts Brazil 13th.
That's a good effort, first time out in a strange car, in a car they've only had a few minutes to sort of adjust to his setup, get the driving position correct. I'm sure it's not all perfect for Bruno Junqueira, so that's not a bad first effort at all. Malaysia on track. Now, Alex Young could do with a decent qualifying performance here. He's looking at a possible top 10, but not much further up.
But did he ever kick the tail of the Malaysian car out as he came out of turn 13? Goes 9 quickest and I'm on 19.4. That looked like it was pretty hard work for Alex Young.
2 cars still to have set their time, but interestingly, of course, India we saw having done damage to their car. I'm not sure what happened to Great Britain, John, because Great Britain have not done a time here.
Oh, there's Robbie Kerr, and Robbie Kerr has not been in his car. The Team GBR team are standing on the pit wall, and well, no explanation coming from Team GBR as to why Robbie Kerr did not go out. We don't know if there was a problem or whether that was a strategy on their part. Sit back and watch and see what everybody else does, but clearly for Team GBR, unexpectedly not out in the first qualifying segment here in Durban.
So that's very disappointing for the man who was on the front row last year. Let's get down to the pits and hear from them.
Robbie, what's the problem?
We've got a couple of issues from this morning that are still being resolved, and so unfortunately we have to miss that session, so hopefully we'll be out for the second one.
What exactly is the problem though?
I'll tell you later when I know.
Thank you.
Anyways.
Well, that's a great shame for Great Britain. It's not to have a chance to run in the first segment. You really need to be out in all 4 segments. We've seen it many, many times. You can afford to miss one perhaps, but you're just not in the rhythm. So there we are. The first run sees Germany fastest ahead of Switzerland and Indonesia with the outstanding performance of the day so far. France 4th, South Africa 5th, New Zealand 6th, then Mexico, Italy, Malaysia and Portugal top 10. Then behind them we've got USA, Singapore, the Netherlands and Brazil. Canada down in 15th place ahead of Australia and Lebanon. Then it's Czech Republic, China, Ireland and Pakistan, and the 2 nations that were unable to set a time, Great Britain and India.
Durban, South Africa, for the second time the venue for A1GP this weekend. Last season it was Team France setting the early pace. This year, who else but Team Germany, who are leading the way after the first qualifying session. Been impressive from Annika Hulkenberg already today. The weather today in Durban, it looks great, doesn't it? It is. It's very hot, very sunny, and particularly dry on that track out there at the moment. That you can see it's just a sandwich between the city centre and indeed the beach, which is fairly nice, isn't it? Let's go back to the track for the second session then. John Watson and Ben Edwards, your commentators.
We're all set for the second segment of qualifying to get underway. Cars just making their way down to the end of the pit lane, first few. But Ananda Mikala of Indonesia was one of the stars of the first segment. Let's hear from him. He's with Lee McKenzie. Oh, I'm sorry about that. We seem to be struggling to get sound from there. We'll come back to Ananda when we get a chance, but obviously things going much, much better for him today.
And surprise, surprise, the first car on the racetrack is not Pakistan. They've got called, normally Noor Ali is the first car on the track. He likes to have that opportunity to run in clear air without having to worry about cars behind him. Now he has got two cars behind him, and he will no doubt, well, he may wisely just pull over, let them go by, or he may not even know they're there.
Well, let's hope that when they get to the straight that he will let them ease past. We've got Australia and the Czech Republic behind, with Ireland ahead. Looks to me as though Lyons is attacking quite hard on this outlap. You talked about how hard to push on the outlap. Looks to me there as though Richard Lyons for Team Ireland was pushing quite hard. Oh, wait. Come on, boys, find a way through here.
Well, this is the problem. A driver may not always be aware that there's a traffic behind him. There are blue flags around the racetrack that will be waved, but Noor Ali seemed to be unaware. Look, he dives down. What is he doing? What is going on?
I think Enger slowed down because he didn't want to get caught up behind the Australian car, and Noor Ali was not expecting it.
Well, I tell you what, sometimes you wonder, is anybody at the races?
Well, they're all trying to find themselves a bit of space leading on to their flying lap, of course. The last thing they want to do is be tucked up behind another car. They want as clear air as possible, get those wings working, and it's going to be Richard Lyons for Team Ireland who will go on to the first flying lap of this second segment of qualifying. First time he's ever raced on a street track, but he's been fast pretty much throughout the practice session so far.
And hopefully for Richard Lyons, he will not find himself catching up to traffic that's gone out behind him, as he had. In fact, it wasn't Ananda Mikala in the Team Indonesia car. Ironically, that car went third quickest, whereas Ireland lost a lot of time and ended up all the way down in 20th. And Richard Lyons will not have been impressed with that, so he's now got to really forget about the first segment and he bounces the car very aggressively through turn 7, both on the entry and in the exit to that chicane.
Well, he's going to push hard, isn't he? There's no doubt about it. He is an aggressive driver, and he's really enjoying himself on the street circuit here, despite never having raced on one before, and his European and Japanese racing experience. He's got a top man working on the technical side, of course, with Gary Anderson. And these two have been working very effectively together over the last couple of meetings, but they just haven't been able to get much in the way of points.
No, but they have got a car. They worked on a car on Friday. The time came second quickest for Richard Lyons. Again, a very strong car this morning, but unfortunately in the closing moments of that practice session, Richard got it wrong just at this point in the circuit. Caught out by the bumps, the car ran wide and ran into the pit wall just at the beginning of the pit lane.
So where's this going to put him? Obviously it's going to put him at the top on the combined at the moment. What about the individual lap time, John?
1 minute 19.2, but it's Australia who've done an 18.9. Australia out of nowhere have produced a 1 minute 18.99. At no point during the weekend have they been within a second of that time. Great run from Carl Reindler. Whatever Australia has done, Carl Reindler has delivered for Australia.
Yeah, that's a big improvement. You're absolutely right. So good lap from Australia, puts them fastest for the moment. They were 16th quickest after that first segment of qualifying, so that's a big jump up the order. Now we're watching Mexico, Salvador Duran, and he's been looking pretty handy. He's had one or two incidents here this weekend, but when he gets it right, he can be very quick indeed. Is he going to go to the top of the standings? Yes. And that lap,
1 minute 18.7. So a lot of traffic coming down. Look at this, coming down into the end of the pit straight. So for Salvador Duran, he had a solid 1 minute 19.1. He's backed it up now with a 1 minute 18.7. That gives him the benefit of 1.4 seconds over Australia, who really have come from nowhere and found 1.5 seconds over their first run.
Yeah, very impressive. Now, Team Portugal on track. This car, which has been so hastily prepared for this weekend. Let's just see what was going on. That was Portugal locking up into the hairpin.
And that's not just a lock-up, that is a complete and utter disaster, and almost runs into the tyre barrier. He'll have two massive flat spots on that set of tyres, and it's hard to explain how a driver can get such a lock-up for such a duration.
Germany on their out lap at the moment, so Nico Hülkenberg behind the Portuguese car, but he's not on a fast lap currently, whereas Portugal's lap is still being timed. I'm not sure whether he's going to finish it or not, because obviously it's not going to be much of a lap. He's way down, he's backed off considerably.
He is backed off. I think he's going to say thank you, but no thanks on this occasion. And that lock-up clearly would have damaged that set of tyres. The fronts will have had severe flat spots on it. Makes driving a car virtually impossible. Everything just goes into a massive glare, and the vibration in your hands is painful in the extreme.
Right, here comes Germany then. Germany out to protect its position as top dog currently. They were fastest after the first segment and go on to their second flying lap now.
Traffic ahead, whether that's out traffic or traffic on the lap, but it's sufficiently far ahead that hopefully for Nico Hülkenberg he will have a clear run. He did not have that clear run in his first outing. He still did the quickest single lap time, but he had to contend with traffic.
Car looks so stable under braking into the hairpin. It looks good over the curbs as well. They've got some compliance built into that car. It means the car can move around a little bit and give the driver confidence. This guy's got so much confidence anyway, you hardly need to give him any more.
Well, you talk about the body language of a driver, but it's the body language of the car. Look how little curb he uses. It's clean, it's accurate, and it's executed in a way where he maintains all the momentum and the energy. Now onto the fastest part of the racetrack, up to 255 kilometers per hour. He's had an engine change. They're saying this engine is a little bit less powerful than the engine that they had in. That's Team Germany's answer.
Well, he's still looking pretty fast with it nonetheless. I know the Zytek guys were working on it a little bit, and look at the split times. Of course, that is on comparison to the combined time of Mexico from earlier, so you would expect him to be up on that because he had the advantage after the first segment of timing anyway. Whether this is going to be quite such a quick lap, we'll have to find out as he gets to the end of it.
It was a 1:18.241. That was his first segment qualifying. So we wait to see what has Germany gone and done. They've done a 1:18.4, so they consolidated. They probably ran that same set of tyres in the qualifying too, and they are ahead by over a second.
Yeah, and Switzerland there, just crossing the line. They stay second, John.
By a tenth of a second. I was over ambitious. It's a tenth, so Neil Yarni still very much in contact with Germany, shadowing them by a tenth of a second all round the lap.
Yeah, very interesting to see. And also that France has this time decided to leave it a bit later in the session before coming out on track. They were very early on track last time around. Netherlands has just popped up to fourth, so we now have Germany 1, Switzerland 2, Mexico 3, Netherlands 4, USA 5, Australia 6 and the Czech Republic 7. You're watching Team China at the moment, and they're trying to move their way up the order. They didn't get a very quick time in the first segment of qualifying.
Team GBR are out on racetracks for the first time this afternoon. We've got Robbie Kerr and Team GBR. They didn't go out in the first qualifying. They had something in the gearbox they had to rectify. He's out on track.
So let's see whether Ho Pin Tung can get something together here. He's coming through the final corner, his first segment of qualifying, not very rapid. This time he needs to do something a bit more special.
Oh, much better, 18.8.
Good.
A massive leap forward. I mean, he did a 22.0, so he found 3.5 seconds, and that puts China back in the frame. Discount the first sector time, that's not going to be in the equation, but that has put China clearly in a very strong position to be a top 8, certainly a top 10 team.
Very hard to know exactly how it's going to work out because of the problem of traffic as well, and you only need to get caught behind one car on this lap and it completely wrecks that chance in that qualifying segment. We're back on board with Matt Halliday for Team New Zealand, and New Zealand, remember, were 6th after the first qualifying segment.
So Matt Halliday works hard in a car. He makes this race car look like it's absolutely greased lightning, but it doesn't necessarily always reflect in the lap times. But he runs the car again out to the exit of turn 12, down into 13. Beware the bumps in the entry, watch for the bumps in the exit. He ran against the wall, he does the same thing this time.
He loves skirting with disaster, and he's moved up, and it's a very fast individual lap time, John, a 1:18.1.
1:18.1, the fastest single individual lap we've seen all day has gone now to New Zealand. We just got a glimpse of Brazil. We now see Robbie Kerr for Team GBR. And this is not running quickly. GBR has not done a time.
He's had a spin apparently as well.
Oh dear me, it is not going well at all for
he
Team
just went
GBR
straight on actually. He didn't have not so much a spin, but he went straight on through the chicane, so I think that's not working out at all. Of course, you've still got 2 sessions remaining, but it means that those 2 are both going to have to be absolutely perfect if he's to get a half-decent grid position. He can reclaim it, but the pressure's on Robbie Kerr.
Well, the pressure clearly had an effect because Robbie made that error. Rarely does he make an error, and of course the penalty is he didn't get out in the first segment. He's now got to, well, what's he going to do? Was that Surely that wasn't his out lap. Is he going to have another go? He can't do more than one flying lap.
No, that's strange. It's
or he's just going to go and complete it. He did. He completes it in a 1:28.602. I frankly don't know why he bothered. They should have really called him off and brought him in, saved those tyres. It's only going to be an extra 2.5. Well, it'll be more than 2 miles by the time they come back. But in reality, it was probably as prudent just to call the lap off as it is to let him continue.
Maybe he just wants to get into the rhythm of the circuit again. It is so important to build that rhythm on a street track, and he hasn't had much chance to do so by not getting out in the first qualifying segment. We're waiting for a few cars to come out still, most notably Indonesia, France and South Africa.
And France is out on track as we watch South Africa leave the garage. So local hero Adrian Zaug, the star of the first round, the sprint race in Zandvoort in October 06, and Adrian Zaug absolutely determined to restore South Africa's honours by putting his car in a position on the grid which can certainly put them on the podium in the sprint race.
Well, he's 5th after the first qualifying segment, so he's got to back that up now with something in this second one. Remember, you've got to add 2 times together to determine your qualifying time overall and your grid position. Malaysia, big improvement for Alex Young. He's now gone 5th.
Yes, and we've seen Malaysia really seeming to struggle throughout the running on Friday and this morning, but trouble for Singapore. Christian Murchison has spun it, and is that coming out of turn 10? We think that is on the exit of turn 10. That's the corner, and it's a red flag. Yes, it is the exit of turn 10.
Now that's going to hurt, because that's going to hurt the teams who have not set a time yet.
France actually was one of those teams that was out, so what will happen, whether they will be allowed, well,
depends how quickly they get this car in. If they can get the car in very quickly, but the clock continues to count down on this 15-minute segment, and if the checkered flag comes out and you haven't done your time, well, bad luck, mate. You've got to wait till the next segment.
So watch for the red and gold car. He does clip the wall with the rear of the wing. So for Christian Murchison, twice now in 2 days he's had contact. This time, of course, very much lighter than it was on Friday when he creamed the wall. The back of the car plunked 90 degrees. There we're seeing France out on track, but it is a red flag. He's got to slow down. He's not allowed to run at race pace. He's got to go down to virtually 60 kilometers per hour around the racetrack and come back into the pits until this car has been removed and the clock continues to tick. This session is in effect concluded.
Yeah, and there's a little shake of the head from Jean-Paul Drio. It's also hurt South Africa. The team, Jean-Paul Drio looking after the engineering for South Africa as well, and they decided to send them out late this time. The others too will be hurt by this are Portugal and also Italy. Italy had not been out onto track. Indonesia as well, they haven't been able to back up that fantastic lap they did earlier on.
But there's, out of it is something bad, there's always something good. If Indonesia and Portugal didn't get out, whether they had new tyres for this segment or not, we don't know. If they wear new tyres, then they have got more sets available for the final 2 segments, and also they will be in slightly better condition for their race tyre choices.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So it's not a total disaster to lose 1 segment of qualifying. It is hard work when you lose 2, which is what has happened to Great Britain. They lost the first one by not being able to get out in time, and they've lost the second one due to a minor mishap out on track for Robbie Kerr, and that means they've just got the 2 segments left in which to set their times. Quite a stiff breeze blowing at the moment, as you can see. It's a warm breeze, though. It doesn't do much cooling when you're out there, because it's very hot, very muggy, and for the guys in the pit lane, particularly tomorrow when they're all suited up in their fireproof overalls ready for pit stops, they are going to be roasting down there if the weather conditions are like they are today. Singapore, meanwhile, have been push started,
and I think he's clipped that left rear corner as well, because we saw that there was contact with the wing, but I suspect that there's damage to that left rear as well. We can't quite get a view of it. Well, he's lit the thing up. It's hard to tell, but that car will need close examination.
It certainly seems to have hit the end plate of the rear wing. Whether it's actually done damage to that suspension there, I'm not sure.
From one of the angles, it looked like the wheel might have been pointing slightly out of normal position, but that's a situation that the team will make a judgment on when Christian Murchison takes the Singapore car back into the garage, but coming back very slowly, so maybe he does sense there is some damage that we can't see as clearly as he might feel.
So the clock's still ticking away. Are we going to see any cars back out in this segment of qualifying? There's only just over a minute to go.
Well, they can't get out and get around before the flag comes out, so no is the answer to that particular question. Let's look again and see what happened to Christian Murchison coming out of turn 10. The back of the car runs wide. He clips it with the back of the wing, and I just wondered if that right rear had been damaged or not. It's hard to tell, and we'll find out sooner than later.
Well, at least he's managed to make it back to the pits, or drive it back to the pits, and the guys can get to work on it straight away and prepare it for the next segment of qualifying. As the clock continues to count down, the checkered flag will come out, and it does mean that France, India, Indonesia, Italy, Portugal, Singapore and South Africa have been unable to set a second segment time. India, of course, badly hurt by this as well. They are like Great Britain in that they have failed to set a single representative time at the moment, so India right at the bottom of the timesheets.
Well, the way that India car attacked the curb in turn 7, I think there's a lot more damage than just superficial bodywork damage. That looked, I mean, a very big hit indeed to the right front suspension, and take a lot of work to get that car ready to get out before this segment starts.
Well, the checkered flag comes out on the session despite no cars being on circuit, and that means that at the moment Germany stays on top with 1 minute 18.2 in the first segment of qualifying and a 1:18.4 just now. It did look as though certainly some of the top teams used their older tyres for that second segment of qualifying, so it still means that everything's up for grabs and that France is going to still be a major threat for pole position. But New Zealand was a big mover. They moved up from 6th place into 3rd. Mexico 4th place. Malaysia right up there. So that's a big improvement, John, from Malaysia.
Yes, I mean, from Malaysia, surely a big improvement, much more than they probably had anticipated. They've maybe also been the beneficiary of the fact that Indonesia, France, South Africa, certainly Portugal didn't get to run. But nevertheless, you know, that's what qualifying is about. You've got to take your chances, you've got to go when you go, and if you hang back and wait, then you do on a street track face the prospect of the racetrack going red, as it's done as a consequence of Christian Murchison and Team Singapore having that off.
So let's take a look at how the stand after all of that, after 2 segments. Germany on top from Switzerland, New Zealand and Mexico next up, followed by Malaysia and the Netherlands beginning to feature in 6th place. USA 7th, Australia very good 8th after a good lap there by Karl Reindler. 9th for Brazil in that spare car, and 10th for Lebanon. Well done to Alan Coder on his debut. He's running well so far. 11th for the Czech Republic, then 12th for China, 13th for Ireland. They're ahead of Canada, Pakistan and Indonesia, and of course then the rest who didn't get a second time in: France, South Africa, Italy, Portugal, Singapore, Great Britain and India.
Welcome back to South Africa's own Monaco at Durban. We're halfway through qualifying. Team Germany is still very much in charge. Just ahead of session 3, let's get the thoughts of Andy Creo and Darren Manning in the studio. Andy, to you first of all. GPR hasn't put in a time yet, so things haven't been going according to plan for them. But who else has impressed you so far?
Yeah, poor old Robbie. You know, pressure's ratcheting up on himself now. He's got only 2 sessions to do a time, but Hulkenberg and Yanni fighting it out, a 10th between them. But the ultimate fastest driver at the moment is Matt Halliday, New Zealand, 18-1. So a few guys out there who can do the business.
Darren, what do you think of how the sessions have been going so far?
Yeah, you can see there on screen Neil Yanni that everybody's working very hard out there. The temperature's really rising, and the pressure, and it's pretty physical work around street courses, street tracks. You know, the cars are bouncing around all over the place, and the steering on these A1GP cars are pretty heavy as well. So to be fighting them over the bumps is pretty hard work, and you see that a lot of the guys sweating it out there.
Plenty to prove in these A1GP cars this afternoon. Then session 2 has been a red flag, so that is likely to mean that the final couple of sessions that we have to go are going to be taking on added importance. Let's see, session 3 just about to get underway. John Watson and Ben Edwards will take you through it.
Cars are ready to come out for the 3rd segment of qualifying here at Durban in South Africa. It's going to be India to lead them away, and Narain Karthikeyan needs to pull something out of the bag here.
He certainly does, and in fact a stunning job by the Team India crew led by Michael to get that car. That looked like it had a lot of heavy damage on the right hand side, but they've got the car back together. Narain Karthikeyan takes advantage of the clear track and wants to get as much clear air between himself. China 2nd out, South Africa 3rd. Ireland pulling out to make their way, trying to get ahead of South Africa, looking for as much clear air as possible, and will dovetail in behind China.
Yeah, everyone having to rethink their strategy somewhat. South Africa didn't get out in that 2nd segment of qualifying, so it means that they now are trying to put something together in this 3rd one that brings them back up somewhere near the front. They were 5th after the 1st segment of qualifying, but now they're down in 18th position. Team Ireland, meanwhile, Richard Lyons, they're trying to improve on their current 13th place, and he's certainly shown the potential to do that.
Yes, well, Ireland certainly had the speed through Friday and Saturday morning, but that incident at the end of the section has set everybody on the back foot, and he's had 2 runs, the best of which was a 19.221. He needs to get into the 18s. They did a 19.0 this morning. Yes, he did a 19.1, so he's never actually dipped into the 1 minute 18s, and that's going to be, of course, new territory. But in qualifying, new tyres, car set up for single flying lap, he's got the best opportunity.
Team Pakistan at the moment, not last, and that will keep Nur Ali happy, because, of course, with other teams having problems and getting themselves into dramas of either not getting a lap time in or crashing into the wall, means that he's currently running 50, so he'd be happy if he could hold on to that. But Team India now out onto their hot lap, and he's being timed. He's got to keep it clean here. Let's come out of turn number 1, up towards turn 2. Let's just see, as he comes through the left-hander, how things are going for Narain Karthikeyan. He does love street track, so he's enjoying himself, but he's got to keep it clean.
No, but he's sliding all over the place. He looked not untidy. He looked untidy through 2. He's very untidy through into 4 and 5, and maybe just a case of Narain Karthikeyan desperate to make up for the amends that he did down here when he hit the curbing so aggressively that he damaged the front suspension and damaged the front wing of the car. So now he's just got to find some control. He needs to get a lap in, which is a solid lap, and there we've got China has spun, and we can't quite work out which part of the racetrack that is. And that's down at turn 4. In fact, the first time we've seen somebody spin down at turn 4. Is that car sufficiently off track?
No, red flag.
A red flag.
Oh, what a disappointment. And that, of course, ends the challenge here for India.
And India's had to slow down. You can see he raises his hand out of the cockpit in absolute frustration, because he knows that he needs to get a time. This is the 3rd. He needs 2 segments to qualify in, and the red flag has gone out. Now we've got, 12 minutes remaining. It'll not take that time to remove China's car to safety, but it is frustration for India, because they were 3/4 way around the lap when that flag was shown.
The lucky charm didn't work on this occasion, so sadly, China, let's see what happened to him. He spun into that one.
Yeah, he came into turn 4 just too quickly and over the grass. This is actually an intersection on the normal road network around Durban, and you can see here's the onboard shot when he's oversteering even before he comes into the corner. Then he really gets the back end of the car was so loose. The second time it went, he was a passenger.
Nothing he could really do about that to hold on, so that means red flag has come out in this session. But are we now going to see what happens when get the car ready to go? I don't know whether he should have taken that with him. Perhaps that's what went wrong when he didn't have it with him. But for whatever reason, he's now made it back to the car, and they're going to try and send him on his way once more. Now, because he was called in on his red flag lap, I think he will be allowed to go back out again.
He will be allowed to go back out again, but of course he was on a set of tyres which were probably brand new, and he would like to go out on another brand new set of tyres. He ought to have actually 2 brand new sets of tyres, because he didn't go out in the second segment either. They were repairing the car. So while it might seem bad for India, it's probably not quite as bad as I think the initial reaction from Narain Karthikeyan.
Yeah, and in fact his sector times have been scrubbed from the timing screen to indicate that effectively he's not been on track. They don't count that yet. Now, Portugal waiting to come out onto the circuit as well once the session does restart, but it's going to get busy because, of course, the clock is still ticking here, and it's going to simply shorten the amount of time that everybody has to put in a quick lap in this 3rd qualifying segment. So it's going to be desperate out on track. Trying to get a clear lap could be very, very demanding. South Africa, they also got caught out by that, so they've got to sit and wait now and hope for another opportunity to come out. I think they are going to get the Chinese car to come back to the pits, but the clock is ticking all the time.
Well, man, to me it's going to be a game of cat and mouse. You've got 3 nations covered by just over 1/10 of a second. Then the 4th nation, Mexico, is 1.2 seconds away. So we see the China car now has been pushed back behind that barrier. They have been unable to fire it up. So whether Germany, Switzerland or New Zealand choose to come out or not will be a bit of, I think, brinkmanship.
Yeah, interesting to see whether they bother or not. We've got less than a minute to go, the session to be restarted, and Gary Anderson looking purposeful around that Team Ireland car. He likes this pressure, this kind of pressure situation. He relishes this situation, and he's got to see whether Richard Lyons also relishes it and performs when it counts.
So fuel just been filled into the Ireland car. And well, there's no rush at the minute. Let this initial flurry of cars go. You got Portugal and the Netherlands and Lebanon, Italy and South Africa behind. So with 9 minutes remaining, let them go and do their runs. They'll be back in again within 5 minutes, and then we'll have the best part of 4 minutes to do your run. So, well, it's going to be, I think, a lot of people taking big deep breaths.
It's going to be busy out there. Under 9 minutes to go once this session restarts. Just look at the queue that's building up in the pit lane. How are they going to get clear laps in? I have no idea. Let's watch the fun as the green flag flies at the end of the pit lane, I think. Well, it says green up here, but nobody's told them down at the end of the pit lane.
Switch the lights, mate. Turn the light to green. It's green flag. Oh dear me, that we've lost by many valuable seconds, best part of 15 seconds. So
look at these two.
It's a chariot race, not a race car race.
This is the race to get a clear lap because they want to be first on track to try and get a clear lap. I think the chances of actually getting a clear lap with so many cars coming out are pretty remote anyway, but nonetheless they're going for it. Netherlands versus Portugal, that was, down to the first corner.
Well, Portugal called off their second run. They made that mistake, so they've got a solid one run in the first 1 minute 19.4. But contrast that to Germany and Switzerland, who were in the 1 minute 18.2s, a massive difference. Portugal will do very well to get into the top 10. I think Alvaro Perrin would be happy with that.
Yes, he would indeed. There's India back on track, so this is Narain Karthikeyan's chance. Germany, interestingly, on track. And France, is it? Or, yes, no, USA out there as well. And we'll just have to wait and see who else is going to come out on track. France still in the pit lane at the moment.
I mean, I think that what France is doing is the right thing to do. Let them all go out, trip over each other, get into everybody else's way, and then go out. You'll still have sufficient time, as long as you can do your out lap and come across start-finish line literally a second before the flag is shown. Then that lap will be a counting lap towards your 4 qualifying segments.
But of course, if somebody else has a spin out of this group and causes another red flag, then France could be in big trouble. So that's the gamble you take, that no one else is going to go off and hit the wall. We're on to the flying laps, and the Netherlands, finding a car coming out of the pits, manages to avoid it, and they're all heading down towards the hairpin on flying laps here. I think South Africa's just come out of the pits, but everyone else going for it.
Well, the trouble is we're spoiled for choice. Who do you watch? There's too many interesting characters, teams, nations out there right now, clearly following the rear of South Africa, just running behind Portugal. Never idea they'll lock up from Portugal into turn 4.
South Africa is on a hot lap actually. They hadn't just come out the pit, so all of those 3 cars, Netherlands, Portugal, South Africa, all on hot laps. So is Lebanon a bit further back, Italy too, also on a hot lap, and these 3 in particular all running pretty close to one another. Not an ideal situation, particularly for South Africa, to be that close to the back of the Portuguese machine.
But the performance difference between the two nations is virtually negligible. And again, that big lock-up, that light throw, whoa! Right front from Alvaro Perrin, he got away with it again.
Yeah, he really is hammering those brakes. We've heard that 1 or 2 teams and drivers have had problems with their brakes and getting them to work properly.
And I think Perrin was one of those teams this morning who couldn't quite get the brake to operate as they know it normally ought to.
And it's so crucial.
Slide mid through the corner there, nearly clobbered the wall on the exit of turn 12.
So these guys are going quite well, but New Zealand's on track, going very quickly. Let's see what happens here. South Africa's come up to 5th, so that's a good segment time. Portugal have gone 6th. So these 2 guys who have been running around together have put themselves well up there, but Germany still lead. New Zealand's just done a 1:17.7. A 1:17.7. New Zealand's gone fastest.
Oh, that is the first time ever under the 1 minute 18. Truly remarkable, stunning time. We didn't get to see it from Matt Halliday in the Black Beauty. And now the challenge has been thrown down to the Wunderkind, Nico Hülkenberg from Germany. What's Germany going to provide us with? It's a 1 minute 17.8, and it puts Germany second behind sister nation New Zealand.
Well, it's Germany and New Zealand. Despite New Zealand changing their driver for this weekend, it's still those 2 nations fighting over pole position. But what about Switzerland? Well, his split time doesn't look quite so solid. He's been running second, remember, to Germany throughout the qualifying segment so far, and now he's got to work a bit harder if he's to move back up into a front row starting position here. Got a clear run through the last corner though.
So comes down into the final turn 13, exits, a good clean exit, exits later than some of the others have been doing, but is it enough? It consolidates a 1:17.9. 3 drivers have broken the 1 minute 18 second barrier, and the gap between New Zealand and Germany, 0.213 of a second, between Germany and Switzerland, 0.116 of a second.
Team Mexico exiting the last corner. Where does this put them? 5th. Good effort from Salvador Duran, but the Netherlands have squeezed into 4th place. Great effort from Jeroen Bleekemolen. So it's now New Zealand, Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands, Mexico, South Africa, USA in a stunning 7th place for the youngster Jonathan Somerton, and Ireland have popped up to 8th place with a good lap.
Very strong runs from USA, from Somerton, from Ireland, from Richard Lyons. First time both of them have been into the 118s all weekend, and of course having gotten there now, they need to repeat that once again. To consolidate, but also with the prospect of going a little bit quicker again and finding extra position.
So here's the fastest car of the day so far. It's New Zealand, it's Matt Halliday driving, not Johnny Reid, but the two of them are so competitive, and Matt Halliday proving he can do the job on the street track here in Durban. Great Britain has done their lap as a 118.5. They're still way down the list, remember, because they've only got the one lap in the bank that's of any use, so they're down in 18th place. Canada on track, as you can see, fairly late in this session, but France is the next one to watch, because France on track now, and we'll see what they can do. India, let's see, what was his lap in the end? A 119.3, not a particularly quick lap from Narain Karthikeyan.
No, he had his lap spoiled because he got caught by the red flag. The best of the tower had been used. Back to France to see what Loic Duval can do. France right now, well, down to 21st place. Remember that second run was called off, so France with a 1 minute 18.6. They've got to get into the 1 minute 17s to join New Zealand, Germany and Switzerland to put themselves back into the battle for the front 2 rows of the grid.
That's a hard driven out lap. He's only just going on to the flying lap, and yet that car was moving around as if he was on a flying lap.
Well, I think that's maybe the key to a flying lap, is to go hard on your out lap. Remember, street tracks tend to be a lot smoother. They don't keep the heat, they don't retain the heat in the tyre the way a permanent racetrack will do, so push very hard on your out lap. You'll have enough grip to compete a flying lap. Clambers over the curbs on the exit of 2, good through 3. Watch for no luck. Yes, well, there was. I was just watch for the lock-up going into turn 4, and on Cole it came.
It did, but remember, France hoping to start from pole position as they did in Durban last year when Alexander Premat was driving. He's neat and tidy, as our helicopter shots show, through turns 6, 7 and 8. The long right-hander down the ramp now onto the main road and onto the main straight, with traffic coming in the opposite direction on the other side of the barrier. 160 miles an hour, 255 kilometers an hour. Stamp on the brakes, get it into the right-hander, and he's through there pretty neatly.
Yeah, good exit, clean, maxed out on the use of the road available. No wasted energy, no wasted drive. Again, runs right out to the exit of turn 10, but it's all forward momentum. Keeps the speed up now to turn 12, virtually flat out. In fact, I think it is all the way around.
And he's not going to do enough, I think, to take pole. He's going to be up there somewhere, but it's not, I think, going to challenge New Zealand's new impressive time. It's going to put him perhaps on the second row. Yep, 4th fastest for Team France.
And a 1:17.919, so he's in that 1:17 minute second zone, but within about 2/10 of what we saw from New Zealand. That time from Matt Halliday was absolutely blinding. 1 minute 17.731, the single fastest lap ever here at the Durban Street Racetrack.
Now Czech Republic leaving it fairly late in this session to do their lap. Canada on their quick lap have just crossed the line. In fact, if they know, they're still going around at the moment. So Canada's still on a lap, and we've still got just over a minute to go in this session. Not many have left it this late. Canada now has crossed the line, gone 16th quickest. They're not having a good weekend at the moment, Team Canada. James Hinchcliffe struggling a little bit for pace on this Durban street circuit.
Well, they had to change the car. The car was too badly damaged after that incident in Australia 3 weeks ago. So just getting all that momentum back, and look at Thomas Enger slides almost dirt tracks as he comes through turn 8, down the down ramp onto they're following the road the wrong way, down into turn 9, on the brakes. Important to get in early, get the exit right, and that's about as nice as you could expect.
It is looking quite good, but it's not enough to really put him up amongst the front runners. 1.3 seconds down on the split, but that could put him in the top 10, which has surely got to be his initial aim here before the final segment of qualifying, when perhaps throws all caution to the wind. He did have an accident this morning, though.
1:19.2 was his best in that second segment of qualifying. He needs to be in the 18s at least to get into the top 10.
Let's see where it puts him then. Czech Republic, 9th fastest, and is he in the 18s? Yeah, 1:18.2.
That's a good run from Thomas Enger. He picked up a second over his previous fastest single lap. So now he's got a time which he can work with. He can now also, like everybody in the top 10, assuming when they go out or whether they got caught in traffic, they can all potentially move forward. Let's watch Thomas Enger through turn 7 again. Watch how much of the he virtually pushed half the car across the chicane. I've never seen anybody use as much of the chicane as Thomas Enger has done in this particular run. That in part will have contributed to that second he found, but it is hard on the car. And there you can see the faces of the Czech crew as they look around. Those are the engineers that work with the Czech team. They've got a unique approach to their A1GP program, and Thomas Enger has responded.
Great stuff from them, but some sort of problem has occurred to Indonesia, because Ananda Mikula did not manage to set a time at all in that last session, nor interestingly did Singapore, and of course China, we know, had that problem out in the chicane.
Yeah, I think that Singapore may well have damaged their car, and that's the reason they didn't get out.
Yeah, that's quite right, but let's find out what happened to Indonesia. I think Lee McKenzie is with Ananda.
Well, I've just spoken to him. He's still sitting in the car and he's speaking to the team. Motor racing can be cruel. After going third in session 1, he wasn't able to set in time in session 2. In that session, he actually clipped the wall on his fast lap and has broken the top wishbone on the rear. So the team are working frantically so they can get him out to try and get another good run in.
Oh, what a shame. Thanks, Lee, for that. He was such a star in the first segment of qualifying, but it's not enough in A1. You can't just do one flying lap. You've got to repeat it at least one more time, but he's got a chance still to do that, and if the team can get the car fixed, he'll be all right.
And that 18.4 has not taken him out of the zone at all, because the first run for Minis were at 18.6, 18.2s.
Yeah, it's all close stuff, isn't it? So it's New Zealand on top from Germany and Switzerland, but those three nations are separated by 0.3 of a second. Then it's France and the Netherlands, Mexico 6th, South Africa 7th ahead of the USA, and that is an outstanding effort from Jonathan Somerton, new boy for Team USA. 9th for Czech Republic, 10th for Ireland, then 11th for Portugal. Making his return is Alvaro Parent. Then it's Italy, Australia and Malaysia. Brazil ahead of Lebanon, Canada, China. Great Britain getting one good lap in, and for Great Britain now have the chance to get into the top 10 from there if they really put it together. Pakistan down to 20th now, ahead of Indonesia, India and Singapore. So a moment for us to draw breath as much as anybody else, and the drivers all trying to cool down a little bit out of the cars. Alex Young just conferring with the engineers on the team to try and decide what direction they go in next.
Yeah, that third segment was not a good one for Alex Young. It was a second best, but in fact an 18.8 was his best. He looked to want to find another 18 something. He needs to get into the low 18s.
Let's get down to the pits. We're looking at the Singapore car. Simon Hill has news for us.
Yeah, I actually thought, Ben, there is some damage there. In fact, it broke the rear wing in the contact that Christian Murchison made with the wall. And I sort of caught his eye, and he just shook his head as if to say, what's going on this week? And he's obviously had a pretty trying time. Team GB are making some fairly significant changes to set up, the change in the front springs and some other settings on the front suspension. So it will be interesting to see if Robbie Kerr can make the best of this final run.
There's pressures on there, definitely, Simon. Thanks very much. The fastest lap of the day then, the individual, is to New Zealand at a 1 minute 17.7, and they've added that to a 1:18.1 to be on provisional pole. But it's all going to come down to this final segment of qualifying. Of course, if there are red flags, that's going to mess things up as well.
Indeed it will, but they're just talking about Team GBR. They're in the same position. In fact, they're slightly worse off than Team Indonesia, because Indonesia's quicker by a few thousandths of a second than Robbie Kerr for Team GBR. They've both got mid 1 minute 18.5 second laps. They need both desperately to do something below the 1 minute 18. If they can, they will certainly put themselves comfortably into the top 10, possibly into the top 8, but it's a big ask, and making a lot of car changes as Team GBR are doing is a risk, there's no question.
Neil Liani trying to keep cool with an ice pack a moment ago. He's third quickest currently. Pretty good effort by him, but he's still in the hunt for pole position here. He's one of 4 drivers who have got into the 1 minute 17s. They are Matt Halliday, Nico Hulkenberg himself and Loic Duval. And we'll have to see whether they can go better than that in the one final remaining qualifying segment here in Durban. Down inside the British pit garage. Still plenty of work going on, making changes to the front dampers, maybe to spring settings, or damper settings, whichever, to try and make an improvement for this last segment. We're into the final 15 minutes here at Durban, and it's Pakistan and India. First two cars on track. Narain Karthikeyan really needs something pretty mercurial to drag himself up the order. He's currently down in 22nd position for India.
He's just decided, I'm not going to sit behind Pakistan, I'm going to go out. I want the clear road, I want all the racetrack to myself, I don't want distractions. I've got nothing to lose, I've got everything to gain. I need to go out. I've got a 1 minute 19.3 in the bin, and I mean, that is nowhere near the pace that we've seen from India throughout the weekend, and with the potential that Narain Karthikeyan has brought to Team India. So he will be looking for something, a low 1 minute 18 at worst, and probably he will be looking to try and grab a 1 minute 17 point something. That's going to be a big ask. It's going to ask Narain Karthikeyan to almost just put the blinkers on, put the pedal to the metal, and forget about what might happen if he gets it wrong.
Team Australia, currently they're running in 13th place. There are a couple of good laps from Karl Reindler, but he now needs to find that little bit more. He's done an 18.9 and a 19.0. Needs to find a little bit more than that to really break inside the top 10. There's Alam Khoder for Lebanon. First ever outing for Team Lebanon. First time in an A1GP car at all. So he's done pretty well so far. He's qualified 16th currently. And he's been sensible. That's what I've been pleased to see. There's fellow Lebanese driver Khalil Bashir. And so far, I suppose I ought to touch wood, but he hasn't hit anything.
Well, of all the Lebanese drivers that we've seen, and I think it probably includes Graham Rahal, the son of Bobby Rahal, has done a very good job for his nation. Well, we watch Karthikeyan for Team India, and slightly wide again at that apex in turn 1. Watch him in 2. Bit better, but the back of the car was not connected to the front at that point. Into turn 4, then the cut back 5, very bumpy through here. It's also very slow. The tail of the car has got one mind, the nose of the car has got a different mind.
Yeah, totally different.
Oh, look, again, this car is not working for Narain Karthikeyan. Look what happens. Well, I think he maybe caught some of the dirt on the outside of the corner on the way in, and that's what caused the back. But certainly the back of the India car does not look like it's tied to the front of the car. There, Richard Owen, engineers on behalf of Team India, and he's seeing on screen what we're watching as well. So for Narain Karthikeyan, this is not going to be a lap that's going to help him a great deal.
Well, it's going to be a little bit frustrating for him. 2.5 seconds off the lead pace at the moment, and that's really only going to put him just inside, maybe inside the top 15, maybe not. So this is going to be a pretty tough event for Karthikeyan and for Team India. They're going to be starting a lot further down than they would have expected based on Friday morning, when in fact he was amongst the pace setters. I think he was second fastest to Team France on Friday morning.
So for India, 1 minute 19.6. In fact, it's slightly slower than his previous best, but at best it sees India in 17th position, the first of the drivers to complete 4 qualifying segments.
Karl Reindler really pushing that Australian car. That's another good effort. You know, Reindler really has come alive in qualifying here this afternoon. I think that's the best we've seen from Karl Reindler throughout the season so far. He's really responded, and that's another strong effort from him.
Indeed it is. He came alive in that second qualifying segment, consolidated the third, and has done his best sector of all in the fourth. So he has got provisionally a 10th place, but those behind, Portugal included, Ireland possibly, and then you go down Brazil. What are they going to do? We don't know whether it's possible that with Junqueira in that spare car, can he drag it up into the top 10? There we look at Australia. Much more courses going through turn 7. That's the chicane. In fact, this is probably, it is the in-lap for Australia.
Yeah, it is, and there are a few cars that might still go. Where's Singapore?
He locked up coming into turn 1, and he ran all the way around the circumference of the corner.
Still other cars that might improve ahead of Australia, but nonetheless that was a good effort by Reindler. Let's just take another look at this, John.
Yes, he gets on the brakes there, he locks it up, and in doing so, and it's strange, it's only one wheel locked up, indicating that maybe there's an imbalance in the corner weight in that car. On board with Matt Halliday, the fastest man ever around this Durban KwaZulu-Natal racetrack.
So is New Zealand going to hold on to take pole position here this weekend? They're tied with Germany at the moment on 2 pole positions apiece in this second season of A1GP. Matt Halliday would like to take his own personal first ever pole. Johnny Reed's done all the fantastic qualifying for the team up to now. Matt Halliday wants to show he's every bit as fast as his teammate.
And certainly he's showing that he's fractionally up on his own best time. That was through the first sector. Matt Halliday, aggressive with the way he tackles, going through turn 7, the chicane. He's always decided, I'm going to take the hard line through it. It's not comfortable for a driver, but it may pay benefits in that time.
He's got a car up ahead. Hopefully that's not going to hinder him too much. Through turn 9, neat and tidy through there in second, third gear, fourth gear. Quick as you can, up and down the gears.
Almost 0.3 of a second up.
That's a good lap. Yes, this is a very fast lap coming up once again. It's up on his own previous fastest lap of a 1:17.7. This is another magic performance for Team New Zealand. They're holding on at the moment, and we've still got to see Germany and Switzerland come back out and respond. But Matt Halliday up against the wall, not quite as much dust this time, but it's quick. He stays quickest. New Zealand fastest, and that was a 1:17.8, just a tenth of a second slower than his previous best.
But two very, very impressive laps from New Zealand, and consolidating their provisional pole position. And now the gap between Germany and New Zealand is showing it almost 0.6 of a second of a lap. And well, we know that Nico Hülkenberg is the find of the season in A1GP. Well, he needs to find something very special indeed as Mexico squeaks past the barrier on the exit of turn 13.
And goes fourth fastest. Good improvement for Salvador Duran, just outside the 1:17 seconds on that one lap, but it's put him in fourth. It's now New Zealand quickest, Germany second, and how can Germany respond?
He's got traffic, he's got his key, Matt Halliday. Will he get out of the way? He needs to get out of the way. He's looking in his mirrors, he pulls over to the left, but can he get through? He does get through down the inside coming into turn 9, but it's putting the German on the wrong line. Can he get back on line? He does.
So hopefully that won't have affected the German, but we'll see whether the lap time's good. It was good at the first sector. Germany was well up, and he's well up again. This is looking very promising for Germany. What a contest between... We got a red... Have we? What is that? Trying to see what's going on with the flags there. I think it's still green at the moment. No indication of a problem elsewhere on track. So Germany going for pole position, trying to beat the time set by New Zealand in this head-to-head confrontation between the top nations. He's done it!
5:20.
Fantastic by Nico Hülkenberg. And a magic lap once again, the fastest we have seen to date, a 1:17.520 for Nico Hülkenberg for Team Germany. And with Willy Weber here this weekend, he's on the right hand side of the shot there, the man who is the seat holder for Team Germany. He'll be delighted about that. Rob Creswell in the background there, race engineer for Nico Hülkenberg. Well, he's enjoying this season, working with one of the best drivers he's had in his charge for several years, there's no doubt about it. Now, there is a red flag, John. Now we have confirmation on our screen of a red flag.
Now, we saw a flag come out, and we were getting indications from timing and scoring that there may well have been a red flag, but seemingly didn't get displayed. It may have been withdrawn, but we don't know the reason why. We have seen so far nothing on track. There, the safety car goes out, the medical car also. Clearly, there's been an issue somewhere around the circuit that we have not been made aware of, and we wait now to know whether that is something that's an issue or whether it's something that will see this session, with some 7 minutes of it remaining, being concluded.
Well, with all that was going on, the Netherlands popped up to fourth place, so they are now fourth, Mexico fifth, and Ireland have popped up to sixth. Now that's Ireland's best qualifying performance of the entire season if that stays as it is.
Watch how Matt Halliday attacks coming into turn 7, he uses the curve aggressively. He does so in a positive manner. You've got to be positive if you're going to attack it. Look, going through the left hand part of it, but he gets the body language of the car correct. The balance of the car looks good going through the chicane. For Ireland, 6th place, Richard Lyons has done a good job recovering a 1:17.9 as well, so he joins that 1:17 second club. Great effort by the entire Team Ireland, because that car was heavily damaged this morning, and he and the team have done a superb job.
But look at this man. How does he do it every time, John? You've got someone who throws down the gauntlet, and it looks for a while as though somebody else is going to challenge and maybe grab the initiative. But for the third time in succession, he has taken pole position. That's 3 poles this season, and they've been 3 in a row. New Zealand, Australia, and now on a completely different kind of circuit, the street track at Durban. Fantastic effort, and you can just see the delight in the team there. They know that he had to dig pretty deep for that one this time. It was not straightforward, but he loves it. He loves the track, and he's pumped.
That is a superb run, and Nico Hülkenberg came here for the first time, didn't do the rookie session, went out on Friday afternoon, got a limited amount of running because that session was shortened by almost 30 minutes, but he just fell in love with Durban. He loves the street track, and he has done what we have seen him do time and time again at A1GP in the second series. He's just gotten into the car and driven the wheels off it.
Now, in theory, there are still 5.5 minutes of this session to go. The red flag is out at the moment. The clock is still ticking. And possibly Switzerland could still be a threat, you know, because they haven't actually done their fourth run. They'd have to pull something out of the bag that would be so much quicker than what they've done. They've done a 17.9. He would have to do a 17.3 basically.
A very low 1:17. He's 0.8 of a second away from being in pole position. He's 6.68 of a second away from getting onto the front row of the grid. By any standards, the performance of Germany and New Zealand have been absolutely monstrous, and I think for Switzerland the prospect of being able to challenge for that front row of the grid is all but impossible.
Right, well, I've just been told that with this red flag situation, in fact, the time that's been lost while we've been under red flag will be added back on, so that does still give a chance to France in particular and to Switzerland to keep the challenge up for pole position. But I think that they're going to be a bit too much of an ask unless they get into the really low 1:17s. I suppose France, well, they could do something like that. We saw a similar performance from Loic Duval this morning. So we're celebrating pole for Germany, but let's not just get too excited yet, because it could still possibly come under challenge from this car, Team Switzerland, and from Team France as well.
So two more opportunities, and the clock, while it's ticking away, but the time we understand is going to be added on. But nonetheless, we're still waiting to find out the cause of this red flag here at the Durban circuit. We haven't seen any incident on track. We don't know why. That deployment of the safety car and the medical car. So we're still waiting for that news to come through to the commentary booth.
So in the meantime, it's a bit of a pause for the teams. The other teams that have not set a time yet in this fourth segment, well, there's Ananda Mikla of Indonesia. I think he has done, yeah, he put in a pretty good lap. So out of the two sessions, he's qualified 10th, which I think is his best of the year. Yeah, it is. So despite missing two qualifying segments, Ananda Mikla has got his best position. But there are one or two cars behind him that could still improve, most notably Great Britain. They're still to do their second qualifying time, and they're down in 22nd currently. They'll leap up there somewhere.
Yes, they will do. And we watch Matt Halliday and the team operator John Sears. So Matt Halliday thoroughly pleased. I mean, he, as disappointed as he is to not take that pole position, he knew he was going to have a battle royal, and I think his drive here this weekend has been exemplary. He's been really in the shadow of teammate Johnny Reid all year. Johnny Reid has done the bulk of the driving for Team New Zealand, but Team New Zealand felt that Matt Halliday, with his street racing experience, might be the right person to put into the Team New Zealand car in a street track in Durban, and that judgment has been vindicated 100%.
Yeah, that was a great effort by Matt Halliday, considering he's been out of the car for several months, to come here and to challenge for pole so hard and to so far have missed out on it by just a 10th and a half. I think that really is testament to his skills on this kind of street track. Great effort. It matches his personal best qualifying performance, which was way back at Brands Hatch at the beginning of the first season of A1GP. He qualified on the front row at Brands Hatch for that one, and so he's now matched that, missed out on pole. His position could, as I say, still come under threat from Switzerland and from France, and I suppose he's slightly more under threat now than Team Germany. But Switzerland and France are both going to have to pull out a very special lap if they're to put him under pressure. Now, down at the end of the pit lane, you've got Canada sitting waiting to go. They need to pull something special out of the bag too, but they've been struggling all weekend. At the moment, James Hinchcliffe will start 19th. Thomas Enger, who's ready to race him to the first corner in a drag race as we had earlier, is 13th. So the Czech Republic is in a potential place to improve there, John, because they put in a pretty good lap on that last run, and you might see quite a big jump up the standings for the Czech Republic.
You can do, and the engineers running to the Czech Republic car, some of them had fired up, but then they've been told to shut the engines down. Of course, racing cars have got no conventional cooling on them. They just rely on airflow through the radiator. So in this time of temperature, humidity, standing still at the end of a pit lane with the engine running, it gets hot pretty quickly, and it's pretty hot in the car as well. A lot of heat soak coming into the car from the radiators, which are situated alongside the drivers. The engine, of course, directly behind the driver with the fuel tank in between, and the driver wrapped up in his race overalls, underwear, so he's sitting there effectively in a sauna. Can't wait for the racetrack to go green once again.
Well, while we've got a slight pause, let's get down to the pits. Lee Mackenzie's with South Africa's driver, Adrian Zaug.
Adrian, it's nice for drivers to be able to get into a rhythm when it comes to qualifying, but qualifying here in Durban doesn't really allow for that. There's so many red flags.
Yeah, true. I mean, in second segment we were hit by the red flag, so we weren't able to complete any lap. And then in the third segment I caught traffic, and in the last segment I just tried to really give it all, and I ended up with 2 big slides, which at the end cost me lots of time. But on a single lap I think we would have been able actually to maybe improve on 3 to 4 tenths. We're not more without the slides, but let's see where we end up now and just hope for the race then.
Adrian, thank you.
Thank you.
So it looks as though at the moment South Africa will start in 9th, but their position is under threat from a couple of nations behind them who are still to run. Malaysia in particular, just tucked in not too far behind. So 1 or 2 others that might improve yet with this session due to restart. The Netherlands put in a quick lap though towards the end of that run before the interruption. Let's hear from Jeroen Bleekemolen.
Jeroen, you've looked very consistent all weekend. How's the car?
Yeah, the car is really good. This morning we had a small problem. We had a flat tire, so we had to change the tires, and we had 1 set less than the others in the qualifying. So I'm quite happy to be within the top 5, because this is a big disadvantage, and I'm really happy. I mean, we started 4th last year and then we won the race, so we have a good chance, I think.
Thanks, Jeroen.
Okay.
So, good happy smiley face from Jeroen Bleekemolen, and the green flag's about to come back out to start this session. The final segment of qualifying, which has been delayed by a red flag, is underway once again, and it's the race to the first corner, and it's Canada that's going to win the race this time.
And James Hinchcliffe lights up the rear tyres on his car on the way down to Canada, and clearly I think the advice that drivers are being given is to go hard on your outlap, keep the temperature in the tyre, because there is very little drop off in performance here on a street track, which is by definition much more slippery than a permanent racetrack. So go a hard outlap, get your tyre temperature, keep it stable, keep it high, and then you'll have a good setup for that vital final 4th qualifying segment.
It's a beautiful day here. Just a moment ago the sun did slip behind a little bit of a cloud, and immediately you get that little bit of shade. Certainly in our commentary box it feels a fraction cooler. That could be very significant, because if the track was to cool down a fraction, it would give Switzerland and France an opportunity perhaps to go even faster on their runs.
Well, you can see parts of the racetrack here. The exit of turn 1 is in total shadow, and therefore with the sun being behind those tall buildings, that part of the racetrack will be cooler, but other parts will be still in the full glare of the sun. So it's going to be a sort of a strange situation. One part of the track may be cooler than other parts of the track, and while it may have a small bearing on the tyre performance, it's not going to overall make much difference.
Here's the man that could be the big threat though to Nico Hulkenberg's pole position, or indeed to New Zealand's 2nd place. Neil Ayani, who was here last year racing at Durban, nearly won the race, but had a car problem just towards the end which counted him out and was part of the factor that allowed Verstappen to come through. But let's watch Canada now. Canada onto a hot lap. They've done their out lap, and now James Hinchcliffe is on the attack, used to street circuits from racing in America, but now he's got to dial himself into a track which he's struggled with a little bit so far.
Well, the best we've seen from Canada and James Hinchcliffe is a 1 minute 19.7. So really you're looking at somewhere in the top 15 rather than the top 10, and that's pretty much uncharacteristic of the Canadian driver. Bumps it across the entry to the chicane, a little bit more conservative on the exit, and then up into turn 8, and then the run all the way down into turn 9, maximum speed, and well, anything in the low 1 minute 19s I think is going to be about the best that Canada can hope for.
As you mentioned earlier, John, this car completely rebuilt around a new tub after the accident in Australia when it rolled over after contact with Singapore. It makes you wonder if something isn't quite together at the moment, because it's just so unusual to see Hinchcliffe and Team Canada struggling to qualify right at the bottom end, almost into the 20s. He's 19th at the moment, and it just makes you wonder what's going on. I'm sure this track isn't that tricky for Hinchcliffe to learn.
It may just simply be a matter of regaining confidence. There was quite a big hit that we saw for Canada. Well, 1 minute 18.9, that's a good run for James Hinchcliffe. He did get into the 1 minute 18, but sadly it's not making any real significant change to his position to start on the 9th row of the grid, an 18th position. Team GBR, Robbie Kerr, this qualifying has been a total nightmare. He's only got 1 lap time in the bank, a 1 minute 18.503. He's made a lot of changes to the car. They've changed springs, they've gone up, they've gone down, they've gone all around. And Robbie Kerr, again, it's all in his hands. What can he do? 1:18.5, he needs to do a 16 to get himself near the front.
He does, but this is going to jump him up from 22nd to 11th, so at least he gains a lot of places, but he's still just outside the top 10, and that makes it hard work on race day here in Durban.
Oh, this doesn't look like a challenge to me from Switzerland. That exit out of turn 9, the back of the car did not look stable, and I don't think we're going to see anything at all from Switzerland. So the grid to me is going to be Switzerland on the second row of the grid alongside the Netherlands, and that familiar nation of Germany and New Zealand dominating the front row of the grid once again.
I wondered if the track had cooled. I think if anything it's got slower. None of the cars that have come out after the red flag interruption have gone any quicker. In fact, they've all gone a bit slower than they did earlier. He stays third. It's a slow lap from Neil Yarni.
It looked a slow lap. 1:19.1. Now we call a 1:19 a slow lap, but in relative terms it looked a slow lap, and we never thought that once we saw Neil Yarni exiting out of turn. But this is a good lap from France.
It is a good lap, and I tell you what, France is actually in with a shout here of pole position. Could this be a last minute drama in qualifying at Durban? France going for it. Loic Duval, car comes in ahead of him. There could be an opportunity here.
1:17.9 is his best in the third quadrant. Let's see what it is. Can France be top 3? They are. It is Germany, New Zealand and France.
Good effort that by Loic Duval. He goes third fastest. For a moment it looked as though he might threaten for pole position, but in the end he has to settle for third. Great driving from Loic Duval. A 1:17.6 with the individual second fastest lap time of the day, but because he wasn't able to tie it together with another quick lap time, or as quick a lap time, he ends up third, beaten by New Zealand and beaten by this man, Nico Hülkenberg for Team Germany. The nation atop the point standings by 25, and they're on pole position once again for an A1GP event here in South Africa. Fantastic effort from Hülkenberg from Team Germany, and it's put them on pole position. And he now has 3 pole positions to his name. That means he's tied with Neil Yarni in terms of scoring the most pole positions in A1GP since it all began. Nicolas Lapierre and Alexander Premat between them were very successful, but they had 2 pole positions apiece over the first couple of seasons, mainly the first season of A1GP. So Hülkenberg equaling records as he goes, and of course if he manages to win a race here tomorrow, he will in fact match Alexander Premat's all-time win record. He would be on 7 victories. Well, that's still a little way in the future. We'll see what happens there. But for the moment, Team France fought well. They have to settle for a second row starting position. They will be disappointed with that, because France has been the pace setter throughout most of the weekend. Suddenly New Zealand became a factor there, challenging for pole position, and really it's the same top 3 in the end that we've seen at the last couple of meetings. It doesn't seem to matter whether we race in New Zealand, race in Australia, or here in Durban on 3 completely different tracks. It's Germany, New Zealand and France who make the news once again. Switzerland 4th, with the Netherlands in 5th place. Mexico in 6th. Ireland with their best qualifying performance of the year so far in 7th, and a brilliant return to form for Portugal, 8th place for Alvaro Parent. South Africa will start 9th, and Indonesia with their best qualifying performance of the year in 10th place. Great Britain surviving to finish 11th, 12th for the United States, 13th for Italy, then 14th place for Czech Republic, 15th place for the stars of Australia, China, and then Australia right behind them, Malaysia 17th, then Brazil, Lebanon, Canada in 20th place, India way down in 21st, and then it's Singapore and Pakistan.
Durban, South Africa, the scene of A1GP's most spectacular race day last year. Qualifying today has promised much ahead of tomorrow. Just confirm for you then exactly how that qualifying session ended. Nico Hülkenberg, already 6 race wins in A1GP, takes pole for the sprint. Matt Halliday racing instead of Johnny Reid on this occasion in 2nd spot. In 3rd, Loic Duval, Neil Yarni in 4th. Team Netherlands 5th, an impressive 7th from Ireland's Richard Lyons. A disastrous session, I can tell you, for Robbie Kerr. We'll get to him in just a moment. So plenty then to talk about following those qualifying sessions with Andy and Darren, and let's start with session 1, as perhaps we should, Andy, and with Narayan Karthikeyan, who had a fairly dramatic argument with a curb, which we're about to see right here.
Well, absolutely, those curbs are highly dangerous. You can see just catches the front wing on the curb on the right hand side, and it just wipes the front straight off, and well, he's just a passenger from then on. Quite dangerous, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's nothing really Narain could have done at all there. You know, he just taken a little bit of curb and front wing just a little bit too low, maybe just the curb a little bit too high in that particular point. And you saw the result. He was pretty lucky to not hit the wall on the exit there. You saw him coming pretty close.
Let's talk about Pakistan's Nur Ali, because he made a bit of a bad judgment call in session 2. How dangerous is it to have a driver of such little experience on a track like this, which is so demanding?
Yeah, you can see there, nearly running up the back of Thomas Enger there. He was getting in the way. The problem is on street courses like this, George, is there's just nowhere to hide. And we were talking earlier about you know, the blind corners, and there's so much going on in the car, and it's probably pretty fast to him, you know, with his experience level and everything. So he's got enough going on without looking in his mirrors, and you know, guys trying to get clear track. You saw so much carnage out there with all the red flags and everything. So he'll learn though, he'll learn.
Someone who doesn't need to learn too much is Matt Halliday out there, Andy, being impressive for Team New Zealand, put in the quickest lap time that we've seen in Durban in an A1GP car. How impressed have you been by him?
Yeah, really impressive. I was talking with Darren, obviously he's driven the Team GBR car, but just look how much confidence Darren he's got. He can turn in, he gets on the power, the car's stable on the exit. You need that around the street circuit. You need to have the confidence to get into the throttle early and run really close to the wall. But he's obviously a very, very quick guy, and he's done a superb job in qualifying. But you know, our Hulkenberger's stolen the show again.
Johnny Reid had been racing previously to Matt Halliday, hasn't been in a race car since Beijing back in November, Darren. Is Johnny Reid's nose going to be put slightly out of joint? They are teammates, but there must be fierce rivalry too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Matt had got pole position, I think they'd have been even more out of place. But he knows how good his car is, and he knows he's had chances to win and put pole positions together in the past races already. So he knows, and he probably knows how good Matt is as well. So it's good rivalry, and it keeps Johnny Reid honest as well.
That it does. Lots of red flags within these qualifying sessions today. One in session 2 and one in session 3 as well. How did that affect things for how teams approach the rest of session 3 and indeed session 4, Andy?
Well, it throws everybody out of sync, because you plan your strategy and maybe to run early or whatever, and you could be on an out lap and you get a red flag, you got to come in, your best of the tyres is gone, and what you end up seeing in qualifying in a street circuit is a titanic scrap to get space on the circuit. And we also saw that you know, today. And one of the things with street circuits that I love is you always have to expect the unexpected, and it's always crazy.
And presumably the team's approach has to change so much so that you just want to get out there and get a clear lap, Darren.
Yeah, you saw them all fighting to get out of the pit lane at the, just before the lights turned to green. Here you can see Bleekemolen and Parente racing down to just that first guy out has got a big advantage because he's got clear track. Unless people come out of the pits when you're starting your flying lap, but yeah, it's you see this all the time. Generally, more towards the end of the lap, you see people slowing down to get a clear run. But everybody was doing out of the pits because it seemed to be better to do a fast out lap rather than a slow one.
Let's talk about Thomas Enger, because he pushed the boundaries with his car. Andy, just talk us through what happened here and why he was successful in the end.
Well, you either touch the curb or you really muller the curb, and here he really took loads and loads of curb and just managed to get it sitting underneath the floor pan. You can see how close it was to the front wing, but you've got to attack these things, you've got to be aggressive and committed, and he had the confidence to do that, and so did Matt Halliday as well.
Talking of being aggressive, wow, Team Germany pushing Team New Zealand, who were currently in pole in session 4. Let's just take a look at what happened here, because a red flag happened to come up at the end of Team Germany's lap. How disastrous was that for them?
Yeah, we don't actually know what happened in that last session. We thought maybe it was a mistake on some of the marshals' part by putting a red flag out, because on the timing and scoring, Nico was able to finish his lap, which was very lucky for him. You know, the rub of the green goes with the guys that are being successful. As you know, me and Andy well know when things are going right, they stay going right for a long time. So he was very lucky there, as a lot of other guys were very unlucky.
It's very crazy here with you see Parente getting caught out in the traffic. Whatever Hulkenberg does, it just seems to work out well for him.
Okay, chaps, thanks very much for your thoughts for the moment. Time for a short break. When we come back, though, we'll get Andy and Darren's final thoughts ahead of race day, and we'll look back at 2006. Welcome back to A1GP Durban. If last year's race day in South Africa is anything to go by, expect the unexpected. That's certainly what qualifying has dictated today. Let's just remind you how events unfolded in 2006.
Blast off time, away we go. Look at Holland trying to get down the middle. The Netherlands trying to take second place. The battle behind has gone wrong for Indonesia and for Italy. But Ralph, side by side, Robbie Kerr for Great Britain goes straight on down at turn 9. Something's happened to South Africa, 16th.
There he
oh
is.
No, what a shame. Oh, and Brazil
PK.
spun out of 8th place.
China clobbering the wall. Oh, and Lebanon, Basil Shaban.
And look, South Africa, they're back on circuit.
This is
Attacking
Robbie
France
Ford.
for the lead. Final lap. Can he get around? Oh no, they hit. Britain just gets through on the inside. Robbie Kerr is going to finish in second, right behind the French car. The lights go out, and France trying to get away.
Stunning start from Switzerland.
Switzerland takes the lead, France in second.
Disappointment for the Czech Republic, left on the grid.
He's taken out one of the air hoses with him. He goes past Canada.
Bodywork come off. I think that might be Canada's. There's a move. No, it's not. Oh. And Andrew Mikola and India get together in turn 9.
Team France, I don't know what the reason is, but they're being black flagged. Brazil leads, but effectively it's Switzerland in command of this race.
Run goes wrong.
Alex Young has made a fundamental mistake there.
Now Germany from 3rd place are out. He stalls.
No.
He stalled. PK Jr. having had a reasonable pit. Now you can see the frustration.
Take from Switzerland. Switzerland was slow through turn 2. Switzerland all over the place. Here comes the Netherlands, challenging for the lead on the final lap of the feature race in Durban. Down the outside, the Netherlands takes the lead. The Netherlands is in front. Victory in Durban. What a race result. Jos Verstappen wins.
Hoping for much more of the same tomorrow. Let's just have the final thoughts, shall we, of Andy and Darren back in the studio. Darren, let's talk about a former teammate of yours, Robbie Kerr. Has he had the most disastrous qualifying campaign ever today?
He has been a bit unlucky, hasn't he? You know, with red flags. There was obviously a problem with the car in the first session, so the pressure was on from the word go as soon as he got in the car in that second session, and he never even got a lap in that first session, so he had to put 2 together in the third and fourth, and just wasn't his day. So hopefully he can do a bit better in the races.
He's on a bad run of luck at the moment, isn't he, Andy? Disappointing recent results, but not necessarily performances.
Well, no, the speed's there, we all know that, but you know, you make your own luck in motor racing, and when things are good, they're really good, and when things are bad, they're really bad, and he's having a bit of a downer at the moment, but he'll bounce back, I'm sure.
Let's also talk about Team South Africa then. Adrian Zauger returning for them this weekend. Could he cause a major upset here? He looks fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we saw some good potential there. I think he was one of the few, like with the Engers and maybe Carter Kane for India, that were looking like they were going to be fast, but just got really nastily caught out by all those red flag incidents and you know, some of the mistakes on the circuits part of things like that with the rain. So you know, but definitely it'd be good to see him. We know he's fast. Look at the first race there at Zandvoort. When I was with him, he was very, very fast. So we know he's got the speed. He's got a car underneath him like the French team as well. So he could be there.
Ralph Furman put in a brave performance in South Africa last year. What about Richard Lyons this year?
Yeah, I mean, he's very, very quick. He's got enough speed to do it, and he's a racer, and he's quite a tough guy, quite a tough cookie. So I think you can never rule him out. I mean, look at Jos last year. He won from last on the grid. This is a street race. Anything can happen. It's going to be well worth watching tomorrow because it's going to be awesome.
But again, we see the top 3 that we've seen in recent race weekends up there again in front. But how competitive is it between them? Hulkenberg, Duval, Halliday now?
That's right. You see it well. You know, they've all got the best cars. Obviously, you know, Germany and New Zealand are run by the Supernova team, and obviously we know how good the French team is from its performances last year and everything. So, yeah, it's going to be close.
Okay, we look forward to it. Thanks to Andy and Darren for joining me in the studio. Race day beckons, of course. You can see it all here on Sky Sports. A1GP South Africa live from Durban from noon on Sunday. All the race action on Sky Sports 2. So Team New Zealand played second fiddle to Germany in Australia. Can they make the breakthrough though in South Africa? See you for race day.
I'm not a man, I'm a machine. Chisel me down until I am clean. I buy books, I never read, and then I tell you some more about me. Beneath the concrete there's a sound. There is a poison in the air, a mix mix of chemicals and fear. My words are just hunches, I'm not sure what they mean. You're asking for commitment when I'm somewhere in between. Never try to gauge temperature when you tend to travel at such speeds of velocity.
More sport, news and views at skysports.com.